Hello, bonjour and welcome to your new Bonheur Private Wines video brought to you by the best wine club in America. I'm your host Julien Michel, qualified winemaker trained in Bordeaux, France, and passionate wine lover and wine professional involved in the global wine industry for over 25 years. Today we are tackling something that can be a little confusing in the world of vino, wine myths. 5 wine myths, you know, those things that you've heard said or whispered at a dinner party, or you've read it online and it just sounds right maybe, but you're never really sure if it actually is. You think it must be right, but somewhere in the back of your mind you kind of know it isn't because you've heard some knowledgeable wine people say otherwise. Well, let's get ready to have your corks popped because we're diving into those 5 stickiest wine myths among wine connoisseurs, that is, and debunking them with a little bit of truth and a whole lot of flavored knowledge today. Let's get swirling. And today I want to tell you about screw caps and room temperatures in particular because so many people get those completely wrong. But before we get into that, let's clarify that the persistent myth that sulfites in wine cause headaches is largely unfounded for the vast majority of people. While yes, it's true that sulfites or sulfur dioxide are a natural byproduct of fermentation, and they are also added as a preservative to prevent spoilage and oxidation of our favorite beverage. The levels in wine are generally too low to trigger headaches in most individuals. The real culprits behind wine headaches are more likely to be dehydration, alcohol is diuretic, histamines, those are naturally occurring compounds that can cause inflammation in the brain, the tyramines, similar thing, or even the tannins, especially for red wines. Additionally, individual sensitivities to alcohol, the way each individual is sensitive to alcohol itself, and other components in wine can also play a role. On top of that, sulfite levels in many other foods like dried fruits, raisins for example, processed snacks, I believe in charcuterie there's tons of sulfites, well, those are often significantly higher than they are in wine. Yet these foods aren't typically associated with immediate headaches. So the sulfite headache is a convenient scapegoat, but scientific evidence points to other factors, in fact, as the more probable cause for those headaches. If you want to fully understand sulfites in wine, the full story, where they come from and what they do, watch my dedicated video right here. And this is a big one, and it's slowly but surely being uncorked. For a long time, screw caps were associated with mass-produced, lower quality wines. That's perfectly fine, and it's still the case in Europe and in the US. You don't really find corkscrews all that much. The perception was that serious, age-worthy wines had to have a traditional cork. Of course, but the truth is that screw caps have come a long way and now offer some significant advantages, especially for younger, fruit-forward wines. They provide first a consistent and reliable seal of the bottle, eliminating the risk of cork taint, the musty, unpleasant aroma that can ruin a bottle. Many high-quality producers, particularly in regions like Australia and New Zealand, they love their screw caps over there, and they have embraced screw caps included, and most importantly for their premium wine. So don't mess or dismiss a bottle just because it doesn't have a cork. It can be expensive, it can be delicious, and it can have a screw cap. The classic room temperature rule for red wine. Well, that's a myth. It sounds sophisticated, but it's just actually a bit outdated, and often it leads to less enjoyable drinking experience. What exactly is room temperature anyway? Is it your cozy living room in the winter, which is very different from a summer barbecue? The ideal serving temperature for most red wines is actually cooler than your typical room temperature, generally between 60 and 65 degrees Fahrenheit, so that's 15 to 18 degrees. The bigger the red wine, the cooler you want it to be. Serving red wine too warm can actually accentuate the alcohol and make it flabbier, less vibrant, more alcoholic, heavier, and so that is not good. So you might as well just serve it a slightly bit chilled, leave it half an hour in the fridge before serving, than actually serve it warmer. And here is my video to learn everything you need to know about room temperature and how to serve your wine properly. This myth does a huge disservice to some truly exceptional and complex wines. Many people associate sweetness in wine with cheap, sugary, bad wines. But the world of sweet wines is incredibly diverse and boasts some of the most age-worthy and nuanced concentrated bottles out there. Think of the luscious honeyed notes of a Sauterne wine from Bordeaux, the rich fruitcake character of a vintage port, a nice Spanish sherry, Hungarian Tokai, Australian Rutherglen Muscat, sweet Banyuls just next to where I live in the south of France. You got some fine German Rieslings and many more. These wines achieve their sweetness by concentrating grapes and careful winemaking, so they actually boosted wine, more concentrated wines, and that's exactly why they're sweet. So they're more concentrated, so they could be, and in many cases they should be, considered in fact of superior quality, more complexity, more concentration, more balance, because they're crafted extremely well, and with the correct foods they can be fantastic. So no more stereotypes, please, of sweet wines are bad or cheap. They can be fantastic. And this particular one is a very common misconception among really not very wine knowledgeable people that can lead to disappointment. While yes, some wines are indeed designed to age for decades, years at least, gracefully, well, the vast majority of wines are actually meant to be enjoyed within just a few years or months of their vintage. I can't emphasize enough that all wines aren't meant to be aged. Yes, the wine industry as a whole maybe likes to have you think that all wines get better with age. It's a nice thought, but cheap wines don't, and I made a full-length complete video explaining why and how you should not age all the wines that should and the ones that shouldn't, and I certainly think you should watch this next. If you like learning more about wine, make sure to stay tuned and subscribe. Leave us a like to support, and I will see you soon in the wonderful world of wine. Stay tuned. Cheers.